A very good morning to all of you. My name is Shaina. I work in the ICT division of ESCAP. My colleague here, Jeremy, and I are going to present on how to build ICT resilience in the SPECA region. So the first slide is going to be a brief overview of disaster impact in the SPECA region. Now, the SPECA region is highly vulnerable to disasters such as earthquake, floods, landslides, and drought. Our research shows that during the period 2000 and 2015, close to 210 disasters were reported, causing 10,000 deaths and affecting more than 16 million people. Now, if you look at the figures, almost 45% of the disasters were floods, followed by earthquake at 18%. Even though floods are the most frequent and costliest disasters in the region, earthquake is the predominant risk. I'll take you to another slide where you can show that most of the population is concentrated in areas of high or very high seismic hazard or within a moderate to very high seismic hazard areas. For example, if you look at Kyrgyzstan, almost 100% of the population is living in a high seismic hazard region. Now, these disasters also have a disproportionate impact on people. According to MDAT, two countries, Afghanistan and Tajikistan, accounted for a massive 75% of the total economic damage in SPECA region. Let's look at some of the projected average annual loss. The average annual loss is extremely high for SPECA region. If you look at the figures, average annual loss was around 247 million for earthquake, followed by flood at 61 million and landslide and drought. If we take into account multi-hazard, the average annual loss is extremely high for Kazakhstan at 865 million. This is probably due to the fact that Kazakhstan, being one of the developed countries in the region, has more assets which are exposed to disaster risk. The next slide shows you the seismic hazard map of the SPECA region based on the intensity of ground motion during earthquakes. If you look at the figures, three countries in the region, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Azerbaijan, are situated in fairly high seismic hazard region. And if we try and overlay with our next slide, which is on the transmission map, again, it's very clear that countries like Azerbaijan have a high transmission network situated in the high seismic region, making them very vulnerable to natural disasters. We're going to talk a little bit about the digital divide in the region. In terms of digital divide in SPECA, there's an alarming digital divide. Two countries such as Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan exhibit the highest share of internet users and fixed broadband subscriber. In comparison, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and Afghanistan have the lowest share of internet users and fixed broadband subscriber. To give you an idea, the share of internet user in Azerbaijan was 77% as compared to only 8.3% in Afghanistan. Now, obviously, the richer countries, they have a wider access to ICT for disaster risk reduction and DRM practices, but this also makes their economies more vulnerable if the ICT assets are damaged. There is a potential for mobile-based DRM practices in the less economically advanced countries due to the high penetration rate of mobile phones and also due to the relatively affordability in the region.
This figure illustrates the digital divide in the region with 5 different indicators, such as mobile cellular subscriptions per 100 inhabitants or the percentage of individuals using the internet. And we clearly see that Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan lead the way in terms of ICT penetration in the region. The digital divide is also observable in terms of coverage and cost. In this figure, you can see a clear negative relationship between the cost of fixed broadband in terms of expressed in terms of percentage of GNI per capita and the number of fixed broadband subscriptions per 100 inhabitants. However, there is a good coverage in terms of mobile cellular networks everywhere in the region, and the price of running a mobile phone is relatively cheaper compared to other countries in the same income groups. And this figure illustrates my points. The digital divide can also be observed between firms. The larger firms are, the more likely they are to use the internet. And we can also observe from this figure that there is a clear upward trend in terms of internet use in SMEs in both Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan. ICT is not only a tool for disaster risk reduction and disaster risk management. ICT generates economic growth, and it's also a crucial input for SMEs in the region. This graph shows internet use in SMEs located in Azerbaijan. And SMEs use the internet for the following reasons. They can use the internet for communication, for example, telephoning or emails. They can also use the internet for internet banking. They can also provide online services for the customers. They can also deliver some orders online. And it's also a way for them to get information from the government, which is absolutely crucial when a disaster strikes. ICT is therefore a crucial economic asset that needs to be protected. For example, risk and vulnerabilities could be identified by using mapping and also seismic microzonation. Businesses should understand the risk involved by natural disasters, and business continuity plans could be promoted in SMEs. The government could play a major role in order to promote business continuity plans by providing information as well as training. And this could have a major consequence, because better informed businesses could pressure the suppliers to adopt business continuity plans, as they will be more aware of the consequences caused by disruptions from the natural disasters in the supply chain. The government could also ensure that there is no traffic congestion on the network during disasters, and governments could implement some measures in order to protect the quality and the speed of data. Increased backup power at base stations and other communication facilities could help to counter electricity outages, and maybe more legal and normative requirements for crucial ICT infrastructures such as data centers and base stations could help protect ICT assets in the region. Redundancy is also another crucial prerequisite in order to enhance e-resilience in SPECA countries. Alternative path for terrestrial internet links and also more internet providers at the international frontiers are needed in some SPECA countries. But the fact that some projects such as TASIM or APIS are considered by SPECA countries demonstrates the fact that countries in the region are aware of the risk caused by natural disasters, and they are implementing some measures in order to reduce this risk. In order to, at the SME level, in order to enhance e-resilience, backing up data is a major requirement. It can be done in two ways. Either external drive could be used, but external drive are also subject to risk caused by disasters, and also off-site backup can be used by SMEs in the region by using cloud technology, and there are some providers in the region. In the future, maybe governments should try to encourage the adoption of innovative technology. This includes cloud computing, but also mobile networks can be scaled up quickly by using some mobile base stations or cells on wheels to offer redundancy. And also there is a huge potential with big data. So the big data are extremely large data sets generated from different data sources, and they could be used to collect data about natural disasters or to monitor population displacements when a disaster strikes, and this could be extremely useful to provide aids, for example.
So just to quickly conclude, since majority of these disasters are transboundary in nature, there's a need to promote regional cooperation and mechanisms, particularly for these transboundary disasters, because the impacts can be felt across nations. In this regard, the Asian and the Pacific Center for the Development of Disaster Information Management is being established in Tehran in Iran as a regional institution of ESCAP. The center aims to reduce human losses and material damages through South-South cooperation, and it's commencing its activities by focusing on vulnerable subregions of South and Southwest Asia and North and Central Asia. As we have already spoken about, the Asia-Pacific Superhighway initiative mandated by member states of ESCAP aims to provide seamless connectivity across the continent, and this will enhance regional connectivity as well as ICT resilience across the continent. So we would like to end this presentation by asking few questions which probably the participants of the meeting can use for further discussion. And some of these questions are: do countries take into account disaster risk in the national policy programs and plan in terms of ICT? How prepared are countries for seismic risk to protect damage to ICT infrastructure? Do countries have a DRM plan for humanitarian assistance if the ICT infrastructure is damaged? And lastly, how to build disaster resilience of countries that are high risk and low capacity with limited ICT infrastructure? Thank you.